between our countries. Our facilitators, we had one at each of the tables here guiding the discussion, were keen to stress just what open minds the young people that were here had and the quality of the ideas that they came up with. There were far too many great ideas, in fact, for us to share them in full. But Catherine and I are delighted to share with you, Mr. President, some of the proposals that were put forward on the 5 themes of youth voice and democracy, sport, music and the arts, enterprise and innovation, and the joint award. These proposals lay down a challenge to all of us to take them forward and to harness the energy and the momentum that we heard from young people today to see what can be made of them. On the first of these, youth voice and democracy, there was a telling quote from the table that we're looking at this, that modern democracy doesn't seem to fit with the youth mind. And there was an appetite to look at new ways to bring young people into the political conversation, a new approach to civic education, more effort put into raising awareness and knowledge about the political process, and the importance that youth voice needs to lead to action for young people. The proposal that they came up with was for a 5 nations forum, bringing together youth representatives from each of the 5 nations represented here. That this should be preceded by a mass consultation in all of those nations in order to identify where there are shared issues that we could address together. They wanted those forums to be balanced, both by country, but also by other demographics. And it was most important, they felt, that it had buy-in from all of the governments represented. But that it was not just for governments to respond to it, but for all stakeholders, including civil society and business, to listen to the needs and aspirations of young people and to respond. The other theme that I'd like to feed back to you is on sport. It was pointed out there are already some excellent examples of collaboration and competition in sport, including the British and Irish Lions and the Six Nations competition, and that sport has a huge opportunity to bring people together. It's fun, it's focused on taking part, and competition is not always a destructive thing. The table that we're looking at, sports, suggested that there was quite a lot of barriers in front of getting young people from the 5 nations together to engage in sport. And so they came up with an extremely innovative proposal for an international annual virtual sports competition for schools. That schools should take 12 sports, neutral sports across the 5 nations, and that they should add those to PE lessons in participating schools. 12 new sports over 12 months, looking at 1 a month. And that these schools should be linked together using technology so that they could introduce an element of sharing, but also of competition between them. But the prizes shouldn't just focus on the best, but also on recognising those with other characteristics, those who are most improved, those who overcame the greatest barriers to take part in those competitions. And that once a year, they should be brought together simultaneously using technology to share their experiences of engaging in those sports, and that we can harness the power of technology to keep those young people in touch with each other, sharing how engaging in new sports together changed them and changed their understanding of the other countries with which they were collaborating. Those are the proposals, detailed and interesting proposals, I hope you agree, Mr. President, from the Youth Voice and Democracy and Sports tables. And now Catherine is going to tell you about the proposals from the other tables. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I'll deal with the topics of arts and culture, enterprise and innovation, and the joint award. And I'd like to echo Mark's sentiments about all the excellent discussions that was fed back to us from across all the tables. And thank you to all the facilitators in particular for the excellent job they did, trying in 10 short minutes to impart all of your brilliant ideas to us. So to begin with music and culture, there was a great recognition of all the fabulous mechanisms of culture and arts that exist across all the nations. And there was a real emphasis from the group on how important the arts continue to be in terms of exposing the real issues in society, in particular for youth. There were some brilliant ideas that came out of the group. the idea of hosting a festival with a twin city approach, cities each taking it in turn to host the festival that best showcases what they have to offer. Technology again played a really important role in how they came around with an innovative solution to this, using a cultural festival on YouTube, and where you could build up a prize to gain your slot in the cultural festival. The idea of running theatre productions, where you share funding across all 5 nations and shared systems of theatrical learning. Again, engaging youth and exposing the real issues through the arts. I love the idea around using Skyping sessions to connect schools and universities to share the best of our cultures. So like sharing Seamus Heaney with a school in London, or sharing Shakespeare with a school in Donegal, and what you took from it, what your understanding of that piece of culture was. Another great idea was linking choirs. So a choir in Wales learns one part of the harmony, a choir in Dublin another, a choir in London another piece, and that they all come together once a year to deliver something very beautiful. And the final idea was residential cultural exchanges, and that could be promoted on social media. In enterprise and innovation, the idea was put forward of a UK Republic of Ireland educational and civil society exchange, which would develop partnerships and share skills to build understanding, particularly where similar organisations exist, which would just encourage them to collaborate more. The idea of the Scouts Association in the UK and Ireland was given as one area that we could really collaborate and learn a lot from one another. The idea of specialised hubs, for example universities partnering to share ideas, opportunities to learn, networks and integrate cultural learning. Again, technology was core to these ideas. Finally, on the joint award. First of all, there was some lovely reflections on what the programme meant to all those who participated, what it gave them in terms of confidence, team management skills, self-management and independence. What came from that group was a range of very specific and practical ideas of how we could move forward together. The idea of joint presentations of awards, joint residentials, joint expeditions, joint leader and pal training, for example on first aid. A great idea came out that Gaisce sectional certificates could be offered, and you could achieve at various stages of the award as you go through. And a lovely idea of getting the badge in advance of going to the award ceremony, so that you could come proudly wearing your badge from the moment that your award was achieved. Again, more use of technology, using online media, celebrity endorsements from those who've taken part in the award, and how we can use online forums and notice board to connect those doing the award, no matter where you are. 2016 was given a special mention across a number of the groups. As we know, 2016 represents an important landmark in the Irish calendar. And the young people were very keen that this special anniversary for Ireland is used as a platform to connect youth, to connect diaspora, recent immigrants, and instead of only facing on the past, to design the next 100 years of our state. We wanted this to be a continuous process and not just a flash in the pan. President, as you know, there's a beautiful phrase in the Irish language, Ar Scath Céile Amar Nadina. I think you used it in one of your speeches last night. And the meaning of this phrase is, we live under one another's wings, in one another's shadows. And I think that phrase really beautifully sums up the spirit of what today's workshop was. We've all mentioned how open, how honest, and how hopeful the sessions today were. And I've been blown away that in the course of one short hour, all the incredible ideas that were brought back to us. President, the future is in very safe hands. So with that, President Higgins, I'd like to heartily thank you for opening up this forum to the young people as part of your state visit. We deeply appreciate you keeping youth issues on the table. And with that, I'd like to hand over to you.